I'm Tim Shephard. I'm a lecturer in the music department at the University of Sheffield, and we're standing in Graves Gallery, where I've been working for the last couple of months on a project to create a musical response to 4 of the artworks in this space. I've been collaborating with the curator at Museum Sheffield, the curator of visual art Liz Waring, and also a fantastic group of performers, the Gildas Quartet and the clarinetist Jack McNeil, and 4 student composers who are currently studying music at the University of Sheffield. And we've put together a performance for the Classical Sheffield weekend, which responds to 4 particular artworks in Graves Gallery.
Well, I'm Liz Waring. I'm the curator of visual art here at Museum Sheffield, and I've been working with Tim Shephard on this music project. We always really like working with the University of Sheffield. It's always really beneficial to both parties, I think. It gives us a chance to get more research done into the collection. We often, as curators, don't get a chance to do in-depth research into certain works, and this allows for that. It also gives another voice and another perspective to the artworks. We really like the fact that there's a different interpretation that's not the curator's voice, and I think it opens it up to a wider audience.
The idea behind this project is that we respond, I suppose, kind of curatorially to it. So after that fantastic sort of hour or so in the galleries, learning about all the pieces firsthand, I was sucked into the history and the context behind it, and so I did quite a lot of reading up and found that the more direct I tried to sort of make links between repertoire, weirdly the more abstract the musical decisions became in some instances. And then I decided actually the way I respond as a musician to it is quite different, I think, probably to the way you might study these works.
So we're looking at a picture called Chance Order Change 24, History Painting A by Kenneth Martin from 1982. We can immediately see that it's covered in lines, which already have a kind of a musical resonance, because it kind of looks like someone's cut up a piece of manuscript paper and put it back together in a completely wonky way. But what people have found that's particularly musical in this picture is actually the artist's creative process. So he starts with a numbered grid and then uses a mathematical procedure to identify different numbers across the grid to connect with lines of different colours and with different numbers of parallel lines. Quite a few people have pointed out some similarities between this process and the process of a mid-20th century avant-garde composer like someone like John Cage, using mathematics and other procedures to come up with chance elements in the creation of a composition.
So the piece that I wrote starts and finishes with movement where pairs of musicians, because Kenneth Martin's lines are in pairs, play a note. Everybody chose 3 moments from the whole programme of today to write down the pitches from. So they were bits of Brahms and bits of the student compositions. So then playing one of those pitches, a pair would swap and draw lines.
So what we're looking at here seems like a small upright piano, but actually it's a self-portrait by the artist Helen Chadwick from 1983, part of a series of self-portraits. The series is called Ego Geometria Sum, and this one is of the artist aged 9. Clearly she has a strong memory of learning the piano when she was young, and she's chosen the piano almost to stand in for her physical body in this self-portrait. So you can see that the side of the piano is turned into the shape of someone with their hands forward ready to play. There are several different hands of different ages on the keys, and then there are also the pedals are turned almost into feet. This is a piece of work which invites us to reflect on the relationship between music and identity.
I love that work in particular because it represents the size of the artist when she was actually aged 9, and it relates to a significant experience in her life. So obviously music was very important to her, and I think it's really nice to represent this work by composing a piece of music to go alongside it.
We're looking at a painting by Edward Burne-Jones called The Hours, in which we have 6 women who each represent a different moment in the day. And you can see that the 5th woman along, who is in the evening, is making music, because obviously that's something you do in the evening, and she is holding hands with sleep, and her activity will lead on nicely. And Burne-Jones described this painting as a fugue because in each lady's dress there is something of the colour of the previous one, so it kind of creates a linking sequence running all the way through the painting. This is a painting by Turner, which claims to be a landscape showing a scene in rural France where a village festival is taking place, but actually is not in France at all. This is the River Thames, and it's not a village festival. This is the ancient Roman god of wine, Bacchus, who is having a gigantic drunken party.
I went with my sort of gut on kind of sound worlds and sort of ideas and more kind of concepts about kind of how to choose the music. And a bit of surprise because it's a gig, you know, and we sort of wanted to kind of present something that didn't exclude an audience by being, you know, too highbrow or sort of too difficult to get into sonically, which is why we didn't tell anybody what was going to be in it. And interestingly, tons of people turned up and discovered tons of music they might not have otherwise.